The rain seemed to have a mind of its own, although Zuma never minded being outside during small storms or showers. There was something about this storm that was unsettling him. The rain had been falling for hours on end, and not the rarest thing in the world, but certainly unnatural. Looking around, he couldn't fully understand what was creeping up his spine, and couldn't shake the feeling of anxiety that was stalking him from afar. But there was one thing he did understand. He knew that Sky was dead, gunned down by a certain German shepherd. All he wanted that time was the answers to his questions, an answer as to what Chase had been keeping from them, an answer to as if he was slowly going insane. He remembered the shrieking gunshot that tore through the air, the screams filling the room and opening its eyes to a dead dog. He tried to keep his composure, holding on to Rocky as Chase struggled to defuse the room. But in the end, he couldn't stop himself from slowly breaking down. He and the rest of the dogs were exiled to their kennels shortly after, but Zuma was restless. He had to come outside into the storm to think, to address something in the arching void enrosed at his heart. Sky was gone, a core piece of the family that was never coming back. Her kennel stood like an empty tomb, her food bowl sitting outside in the loneliness, collecting rainwater absently. Now Zuma was sitting alone in the lookout clearing, his fur soaking over from the rain, staring ahead into the pitch blackness of the forest before him. He contemplated on running. If what Chase said was true, then there was no need to flee. All threats were taken care of. However, he couldn't shake the feeling that the shepherd was lying once again. A few minutes ago, he had a brief conversation with Chase. It was glaringly obvious that the shepherd had met him outside, that the power was going to his head. So what if Zuma strayed away from his kennel? He wasn't leaving, so he'd be out there if he wanted to. The lab made a passing comment about Marshall, hoping to shoo Chase away, which fortunately it did, leaving him to his solitude once again. "This is stupid," the lab muttered to himself, staring down at his paws. "Why now? Why us?" He pleaded into the dirt as if he spoke a soul who had been buried underneath him. A sickening feeling arose within him, as he soon realized it would soon be Sky sleeping under the ground. Zuma made a mental note of himself, already writing his speech for the funeral. Sky was an amazing pilot, a fearless leader, an amazing friend. Tears ran down his face as he silently rehearsed his words into himself, mixing with the rainwater. A rustling sound behind him caused the lab to look up from his grieving. Glancing behind him, he spotted Chase leaving Marshall's kennel. Walking out into the rain, Zuma instantly whipped his head away to prevent locking eyes with him, refusing to even meet the gaze of his shepherd who put him down, one of his best friends. As he heard the shepherd's paw steps fade away back to the lookout's entrance, he sighed and turned back to watch him. He didn't want Chase going anywhere near Marshall anymore. Not on his life. The apology he had likely taken place between them was an exception, but Zuma made future plans to keep Chase apart from the broken Dalmatian. He watched Chase approach the elevator doors, come into a small device that he had noticed was leaning against the doors. Tilting his head slightly, Zuma gently turned himself for a better look. He remembered seeing the odd machine when Chase brought in, and is asking for a blood test. The police dog mentioned that he was running Sky's blood, likely through that exact device. Zuma suddenly felt a wave of shame run over him, gently lowering his head. Had he been wrong? Had Chase truly been trying to protect them? He watched the shepherd look down at the device, then in confusion spread across his face. "What? Wait," he heard Chase said. "What?" Zuma got up and approached him, slowly and carefully. Chase's face held an expression of confusion, in which it quickly shifted into bewilderment, then sank into horror. "Chase, are you all right?" Zuma said, calling out to him, and the shepherd snapped his attention over, taking the Labrador off guard. "Yeah, I'm fine," the shepherd barked nervously, visible worry flooding his face. "You don't look fine," The lab tilted his head. What does the machine say? What machine? Zuma narrowed his eyes. The one that you put Sky's blood in. Oh yeah, that one. Chase chuckled nervously, looking off to the side. Hey, I gotta get upstairs. But what did it say? Said the lab, pressing the word. She's infected, right? Chase hesitated, locking up for a solid second. Yes, that's why I need to go upstairs. Why are you acting like that? The shepherd whipped around almost in panic, grabbing the blood reader in his mouth. Before Zuma could say anything, the police dog nearly threw himself in the elevator and hit the button to shut the doors. The lab was blindsided by Chase's explosive escape, only able to flash a puzzled expression. What the hell is going on? Zuma watched him go, before turning around to walk home. Sighing to himself, he decided that there were no point in asking questions anymore. He walked up to Rocky's sealed kennel and knocked on the metal sheet door, droplets of water flying off with each knock. Chase, I said go away, came the voice from inside. Rocky, it's me, Zuma gently sounded from behind the door. Oh, sorry. The door opened, revealing a shaking gray mix. Come on in, I have some towels. The lab apologetically entered the den, careful not to track too much water everywhere. Yeah, sorry, it's just the rain hasn't stopped yet, he said with a smile, happy to talk to a dog he trusted. Rocky pulled over a blue towel and draped it over his soaked friend. Zuma watched him, noticing Rocky's sullen expression. How are you feeling? Awful, Rocky confessed, climbing back to his bed. I'm just trying to get through the night. I just can't believe she's gone. He looked up at Zuma with pained eyes. How come he could just do that? His voice began to break. How can he just... I think, Zuma tried to say, reaching for his paw forward comfortably, placed it on Rocky's. I think there's a lot of things we don't understand right now. He said Sky was a monster, the mix said, his voice shaking. Looking away, Zuma stared ahead at the walls. The comfort of towel was already warming him and drying all the way in the water in his fur. They stayed quiet for a few long minutes, then each one trying to form their own explanation of recent events. Thinking over his friend's distressed words, Zuma's mind came to a clear, yet disturbing conclusion. I think we should be careful around Chase for a while, Zuma said slowly. He doesn't seem like himself. What do you mean? Rocky asked, shuffling farther into his bed. The lab shook his head. I can't really explain it. You know those moments where you've known someone for your whole life, then they suddenly change? A sinking feeling rose in his heart as the more he spoke. Rocky, I don't think Chase is there. Not there? The mix went eye-wide. I don't trust him, Zuma concluded. Do you? Rocky flattened his ears. Hell no. Did you hear what he said about conspiring with the ACG? Those same dogs who beat me up? The lab gave a low growl. I'm honestly sick of hearing about those stupid military dogs. How do you think I feel? The mix stood up, his fur bristling. Just for once, I think everything's okay. Then out of nowhere, it comes out that Chase is hoarding guns and talking with their captain. Well, I'm glad someone feels the same way as me. Zuma smiled to himself. I'm gonna go talk to the others, see how they're doing. I guess I'm the only one who actually dared to step out of my kennel. Are you suggesting that I'm scared of Chase? Rocky raised an eyebrow. I mean, are you? The mix suddenly stopped, interacting a little as his eyes went off the ground. A little. Zuma sighed, feeling sympathetic. It's okay. Just stay behind me if you feel need to. The fearful mix nodded in reply, but failed yet to hide the smile that was slowly brightening his face. Tragedy had torn through them like a white-hot knife, and Zuma took it on himself to keep everyone together, no matter what Chase tried to do. With one final reassuring nod to Rocky, he shed his towel and left the kennel, making sure to close the door behind him so no rain would flood in. It was slightly uncomfortable to be all wet again, but he pushed away the thought as he approached Rubble's kennel. Rubble? Zuma knocked on the door. Are you all right in there? No response, although a faint rustling sounds can be heard from inside. He definitely wasn't asleep, and could Zuma clearly hear what seemed to be a drunken stumbling, running into things, and objects falling onto the floor. Rubble? The lab asked again. motioning to open the door. No, Chase said to himself, staring down at the blood reader as it ran and hit in his head. That can't be right. He blinked at his eyes several times, trying to make sense of the words before him. Was the machine still overheated? Broken even? Negative. Sky's blood tested negative for the parasite. Staring down at the machine in bewilderment, panic surged within his head, accompanied by a large burst of static that crept over his brain, deafening out the sounds for rain. For a brief moment, Chase was at a loss for his own purgatory, hearing and seeing nothing but what was before him. His breath quivered, paws trembling as he held Sky's results. "Chase?" came a voice to his right, and the dog snapped his attention over. It was just Zuma. Usually Chase would feel relief, but he was panicking. He had to get away, get upstairs, anywhere flee from the madness for just a moment just to comprehend it. "Are you all right?" Zuma asked wearily. The opposite, to be exact. Chase's head was screaming the white noise, and for a moment he didn't recognize the Labrador. "Yes, fine." "You don't look fine. What does it say?" Why was Zuma always so nosy? Why was Zuma anything that he was? He thought that he gave a rise of a feeling of anger, hostility, that bristled within the shepherd. It was always Zuma, always that stupid lab who broke the rules, caught up in the sounds of his head. Chase could even barely register his friend's questions. "What machine?" he breathed out, confused. "The one you put Sky's blood in." "Oh yeah, that one." Chase tried to laugh it off by his mistake. "Hey, I gotta get upstairs." His mind was barking at him. Run, flee, run faster. Run anywhere just to get away from the others. Run somewhere where you can break down sobbing at your own failures. "But what did it say?" Zuma said, took a step forward. "She's infected, right?" Chase's body, he felt it locked up. He could lie right now and be done with it. But how much time would that buy him? "Yes, that's why I need to go upstairs." "Why are you acting like that?" With no further excuses to give, Chase turned sharply and fled the scene, grabbing the blood reader and running up to the elevator, shutting the door as fast as he possibly could. He caught a brief glimpse of Zuma's confused expression. There was no time for that now. He had to get back to the boiler room and rip up the answer wherever the possibility could. He placed it in circles, and the elevator closed and began descending, whimpering to himself that he had returned to the underground. It couldn't be true. It just couldn't. Chase made every single attempt to deny it, but the truth was looming over him, was just waiting for him to look it up. He was almost running in place when the electric doors slid open, and the wave of heat washed over him. He could care less about the temperature now. Savagery gripped his mind as he bared his teeth, claws unseeving from his paws. He took no time sprinting back to Sky's body, still laying motionless on the table. He jumped in out of a single motion, planting his soft paws on the table firmly and staring down into the cockapoo's dulled, lifeless eyes. "Show yourself!" he barked, insanity in his eyes. "Show yourself, damn it! I know you're in there!" Not a word was spoken in response. Was he expecting it to? "Ferox Miles! That's your name, right?" He was nearly screaming now. "Come out of here and face me!" He slammed his paw on the table, knocking off the small metal tools that impact the sound ringing throughout the room. "I said come out!" He wanted to so badly, to deny it, like if he truly believed hard enough that he would change reality, willing himself into the right and erasing what could have possibly been the worst mistake of his life. "Come out!" His voice lowered, breaking tears that spilled from his eyes. "Please!" Sky wasn't infected. She never had been. Her blood was inserted into the machine and came back negative. He tried desperately to form an explanation in his head, like Ferox Miles switching bodies or leaving Sky, but it never left the original body unscathed. If it had decided to leave Sky, she would have been slaughtered in the process. The only thing that made sense now was Chase's worst nightmare. He had murdered her. He was wrong, guessed incorrectly with the most trivial decision of his entire life. Now incoherent dog was dead, murdered by his own paw. And for what? What could she have possibly sacrificed herself for? Was there even a threat to begin with? Static churned in his head as a crippling question surrounded him. Was the parasite even there to begin with? Was Sky really just sick with the common cold? Anguished at this failure, Chase slowly let himself down from the table. Each step of his paw was shaking, his very soul struggling to live with the reality of having killed one of his closest friends. Every moment he tried to make sense of the situation. His mind only blocked it out. He could only do now was deflate, lowering himself to the ground and tucking in his paws. Silence filled the air for a long moment, and Chase closed his eyes and wept on the floor, mourning the beloved friend he put down. Upon opening his eyes again, he sat up and looked to the floor, remembering the pup pack that still sat on his back. Chase realized the source of their problems in the first place. "Rough ammunition," he barked sadly. On the perfect command, the mechanical arm extended out of the pack, brandishing the same firearm he had used earlier that day. Chase reached up and removed the gun from the arm, now holding it into his own paws. His weeping eyes inspected the weapon, turning it over a few times. Sky was dead, and it was all his fault. The crime is executed from every tool in his paws. Was it always true in this case? He was a police officer, after all, and such authorities were no strangers to violence. What was it that made him pull the trigger on her? Delusion? Or had the violent nature of police officers suddenly gone to his head? He started making a decision. "I'm turning myself in." He sighed and tossed the gun away, not even caring where to see through it. He heard the metal sound of the impact of the weapon collided with the floor, most likely behind some junk now. He didn't deserve to carry a gun. He didn't deserve his badge, his uniform, his title. He wouldn't complain if it all stripped away from him. Moving his paw up to his neck, he felt the tag that still hung from his collar, the one Cyrus had given him. The tag had the emergency radio implanted inside. "I failed," he said in resignation, realizing that there was no hope for him now. He unclipped the radio and tossed it away along with the gun. No point in helping the ACG. No point in even speaking to them anymore. What would Cyrus say at the revolution that Chase was truly just a puppy who didn't understand what he was doing? Was there the only thing Chase could do now? Wait out the storm and for Ryder to return? But what would he tell his friends? They had to know eventually. They had the right to know the truth, although he didn't really have that conversation planned, especially after he lied to Zuma. Sighing, he turned to left the boiler room, shutting the doors behind him as he entered the elevator. It felt like a dream as he moved back into the surface, with the shepherd blankly gazing into the wall as he watched his life fall apart. The static in his head continued onto it as it screeched in his ears, but Chase made no effort to claim it. Now he understood it, at least in his own way. The noise was there for a reason, a figment of punishment for himself. He had nothing but his own mistakes to as now. The doors opened, revealing a dark downpour outside. Chase quickly made plans to retire to his kennel and sleep away the entire horrid night. "Help!" cried a voice. He quickly picked up his head and ears stiffened in alarm. "Chase!" Zuma cried out, straining to keep the kennel door. "Over here!" It took him a few seconds to process the situation, but Chase quickly sprang up in action. "Zuma?" A violent clang erupted from Rubble's kennel, sounding like something within it was bouncing off the walls, causing the entire structure to sway. "Get back!" the lab shouted as the other dogs emerged from their kennels. "What was that?" Rocky exclaimed, eyes widening in sight. Low growls began to emit from the kennel, layered on one another like dozens of dogs were all snarling at once. "Holy shit!" Chase muttered to himself, eyes widening as he began to take steps back. A brutal sound of impact sounded from the den, the walls visibly beginning to bend outward. With a forceful blow, the kennel lost more of its stability as the creature within it fought to break free. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.